Hey, have you ever noticed that Christmas and conflict can sometimes go together? Well, today in this video, I'm going to give some advice on how to keep those two apart so we can have really the best holidays ever. I'm Brett, licensed psychotherapist and the executive director for The Gathering. The Gathering of Good People is a nonprofit. It's dedicated to helping you deal with emotional pain through personal growth. And today, like I promised in the very beginning, we're going to talk a little bit about holidays and conflicts, holidays and relationship problems, which doesn't seem like they should be together, but unfortunately they often do. I guess what triggered this off for me was just the other day I got a text, and the text was from Bob. Not his real name. Anyway, Bob texts, he's like, oh gosh, do you have any openings in your schedule? And I'm like, it's the holidays, not really. And then I started looking through his history, and I hadn't seen Bob in almost a year. And I'm like, wait, Bob, you came in last holiday season. And so it seems like him and his wife always have these annual conflicts that take everything in their relationship and escalates it to the next level. Well, that's kind of what got me thinking about this video and making it for you. Today, I think I want to address 3 different issues that intertwine, that interact with each other, but have kind of a separate root, and then we can better kind of understand what are 3 things we can do to help get rid of it. All right, the first problem I think that creates conflict in our relationships around the holidays is the very fact that maybe the relationship hasn't been that great, period. And that's a huge issue. A lot of times couples just kind of live separate lives, and they have these kind of separate worlds. Hey, you go to work, you work on the outside of the house, garage, that's kind of your job. You stay home, you take care of the kids, you take care of the family, that's kind of your job. And then for the most of the year, we can just ignore each other and live kind of as roommates. Each has their own responsibility. But when the holiday hits, we have to come together and we have to make decisions. We have to do things together. We have to spend time together. And that sounds like a great thing to me, but actually turns out to be a negative thing because these couples aren't really a couple. They're more roommates. And so during the holidays, it forces them to come together and address the issues that keep them apart. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is resentment. Resentment is one of my favorite topics. Resentment happens when you feel like you're giving more than your partner is. When you're doing more than you feel like your partner's doing, it will create this feeling of resentment. And during the holidays, there is a lot to do. And if one person's really into the holidays and the other person's but they're doing what they've always done and not necessarily stepping up because they're not as excited about the holidays as you are, guess what? That's going to create resentment for you because you're breaking your hiney trying to get everything done and your spouse is just doing what they always do. And it doesn't feel like much help at all. So that's going to be another reason that'll create this conflict in a relationship, especially around the holidays, right? And the third reason that creates conflict around the holidays is just the very stress load of everything that's going on around us. Because of everything that's happening, all the extra things that we have to put together for the holidays, we do a lot less self-care, and we tend to burn the candle at both ends. We're sleeping less, we're not eating as well, we're definitely not doing anything to take care of ourselves, exercise, meditations, or whatever else we do for self-care. All of those things seem to fling out the window. And so that combination of both added stress and decreased self-care, gosh, just leaves us exhausted. So when our partner does something or says something, we just don't have the reserves, and we just get snappier with each other. And we just, really? What? Because we're just exhausted. Now, I think there's 3 different solutions. I want to look for these different problems. Solution number 1 for the first problem, which is the stress of the holidays, is basically just revealing how dysfunctional and disconnected a relationship could be. And I think at that point, the answer is kind of obvious. You need to stop ignoring. Stop ignoring the issues and get yourself into some support and counseling. And I think that's really why my numbers for counseling in terms of new intakes jump January, February, right after the holidays. Usually not a whole lot just before the holidays or during the holidays, but man, right after, everybody's like, okay, we got to deal with this. We can't keep ignoring these problems. So if that first issue is you, get in some counseling, resolve it, deal with it, address it, please. All right, the second issue is having to do with resentment. Again, resentment's such a great emotion because it tells you when you're doing too much. And the obvious answer for, this sense of resentment is that you have to make some priorities. Make some priorities in terms of if you're doing too much, you could either A, ask your partner to step up, which is what you've been doing, and that's why you're resentful, or B, there is a second option. The second option is to do less. Doing less will help you stop being resentful because then you're doing what you feel like you can, you're doing what you feel like is important, you're doing what you feel like you want to do, what you're prioritizing, and then letting your partner do whatever they're going to do, because controlling them or trying to motivate them is what's causing the conflict for you. So at that point, you're going to have to prioritize. What do you value? And if you can't let go of something because it's super important to you and you value that, then know that you're doing it for you. And that your expectation that your spouse is going to be just as excited or just as motivated or just as intent as you are at creating whatever this piece is, probably is unrealistic. Probably is where you're getting into conflict. Make it a priority if it's a priority for you, and if it's not, let it go. But my suggestion in that area is focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't control. And that's going to help decrease the resentment, because you're resenting that you're giving so much and they're not giving enough, and you can't control them. So control what you can control, focus on you, and then let that go. Now, that brings us to our third or last category, which is just the stress of the holidays themselves can make people irritable, can really put pressure on a relationship and diminish, how much we're doing self-care, how much we're taking care of ourselves. And that could be a huge problem in terms of just depleted resources. Well, at that point, I would say, kind of like the last answer, look at prioritizing. Look at, what are the holidays about? What are the holidays really, what's your intent in creating these wonderful holiday experiences? My hope is building relationships. My hope is connecting with people. My hope is, allowing the bonds of the family to grow and having some wonderful experiences. Well, if that is truly your goal, then I would keep your focus there. Keep your focus on, okay, how can we build some good relationships? How can we create some intimacy? How can we create connection with myself and my spouse, or connection with the family in general? Focus there. Make sure that's your priority. And if the tree gets trimmed correctly, whatever that means, all the lights get up, whatever, there's no end, is there, to the decorations and to all the chores that we have with Christmas. If those can be happening and you still have resources and you left, that's great. That's awesome. But again, don't let that become your priority, because it's not. It's not your priority. Your priority are these other things: relationship, intimacy, connection, love, family, positive family experiences. Keep your eyes on the ball. Keep your eyes on the prize. This is what you want: the intimacy, the connection, the closeness. These other things, they're kind of like secondary goals. They aren't really adding value in terms of connection. They may be something important to you because they were traditions that you've had, which is great. Again, prioritize them. But again, keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes focused on where you want to be, which is what's the most important thing to you? What do you want the most out of the holidays? And again, my hope is it's connection, closeness, intimacy, a bond. And as you focus there, you're going to focus on doing the things that need to be done to keep the relationship close. All right, I hope you have a wonderful holiday this year and you really can avoid some Christmas conflict. I'm Brett, psychotherapist, and I hope to see you someday at the gathering of good people. Take care.